Bin412. You know, if you've watched these videos with me over the last couple years, you know I'm always saying that the world of wine is a big place. And I'm always encouraging you to get out of your comfort zone and expand your palates by drinking new regions, new varieties. Well, here I am, a guy who's been studying and drinking wine for over 20 years, and 4 of the 5 grape varieties I'm going to share with you tonight are ones that I myself have never even had. These are truly unique grape varieties from the Balkan Peninsula, the former Yugoslavian Republic, countries like Croatia, Bosnia and Herzegovina. Truly unique grape varieties that I'm going to share with you tonight. So Wines of Illyria was founded by Indira Bayer, who came to the United States as an immigrant after the war in Yugoslavia in 1996. Spoke no English, learned again from the ground up, re-enrolled in college to get her undergrad degree and her master's degree, wound up working as a teller at Bank of America, moved her way up into small business banking, vice president of small business banking, and ultimately landed a job with the US government, going back to her homeland of Bosnia Herzegovina, and focused in the economic sector of the US government's aid, trying to assist the country after the war. What she noticed while there, and was teaching some courses at the local university, was a huge brain drain in the country. Historic unemployment rates, 43%, youth unemployment of 67%, and again, youth graduating college wanting to leave the country to start their own businesses or start their career, not feeling that there was a future for them in Bosnia. So what did she do? She put her money where her mouth was and decided she was going to leave the US government job, the cushy job that she had, and she was going to start her own company and focus on importing goods from Bosnia back to the United States where she had built a presence. First wine we're going to drink is the Stone Cuvee. This is a blend of 90% Zilavka and 10% Banja. Now, Banja adds a little bit of acidity to the final blend, according to Indira, so let's give this a shot. On the nose, I get lemon curd, I get honey, some stone fruit, and a bitter almond note almost. It reminds me an awful lot of a Vermentino from Italy. The palate, however, much richer, much denser, more of a mouthfeel, creamy texture. Reminds me an awful lot of Marsanne and Roussanne from the Rhone Valley, and this is in fact grown in some really rocky soils. So it does have a little streak of that minerality at the end that keeps it from being one-dimensional. If you like bigger, fuller-bodied white wines, you might want to give it a shot. If you like Viognier, you might like this. It's got a little bit of that oiliness in the texture as well. Not quite as floral and aromatic, I would say, but along those lines. The next wine we're going to drink is really interesting. It's a grape called Blatina. Now, Blatina only grows in one very specific river valley in the Balkans. It only flowers 3 days a year, and it only has female flowers, so it needs other varieties to help it pollinate. There are 2 or 3 other varieties that winemakers or vineyard managers will plant alongside Blatina to help with pollination because they kind of flower at about the same time. If you get a big heavy rain during those 3 days, no fruit, no crop. So really difficult to grow, but we're glad that there's a couple grape growers still focused on it because it's a really unique variety in this part of the world. On the nose, you know, it's very lifted aromatically, tart fruit. Indira says that this reminds her of plum jelly her grandmom used to make, and I will concede that it has a plummy note, but it's a little bit more on the underripe plum. It's not a syrupy, jammy wine. It's a more tart-driven fruit flavor and a little bit of spice to it as well. Reminds me a little bit of like Blaufränkisch on the nose. It's a soft wine, light, tart red fruit. A little bit of that spiciness and a really good streak of acidity. You know, if you like Gamay, if you like Zweigelt, Blaufränkisch, Teroldego, a lot of these cool climate reds that have pronounced acidity and a tartar, lighter fruit profile, I really think you'd like Blatina. Give it a shot. So now we're going to move on to Vranac. Vranac is a kingpin grape of this region, grown through the entire Balkan Peninsula. It's a thicker skinned grape, produces wines with a little bit more color, therefore. It gets a little riper, higher sugars, higher potential alcohol, and it's a little hotter of a wine for sure. Yeah, it smells a little hot. Now this is only 13% this bottling, which surprised me because it smells a little hotter on the nose. But you get penink and wet asphalt and petrichor, that fresh rain on asphalt smell. And sage and Juric. This smells very much to me like a Southern Rhone Grenache-based wine. If I smelled this blind, I would call it Grenache 100 times over. A little bit of cranberry, a little red currant. maybe a little elderberry, but it's definitely got that kind of like raspberry liqueur and that sagey, peppery, brushy flavor that a Southern Rhone has. So a little hot. If you like Grenache and you like Southern Rhone wines, this might be right up your alley. Next, we're going to move on to the Plava Tamale. Now, this is a grape that's grown predominantly in Croatia, all along the Dalmatian coast, where there's about 1,500 islands made up of very rocky soils where this grape does really well. Now, the history on this grape kind of amazes me. Mike Grgic from Grgic Hills was a Croatian from Grgic Hills in Napa Valley, had been working with Zinfandel in California, and told Dr. Carol Meredith, a grape geneticist at UC Davis, that Zinfandel in America really reminded him an awful lot of the Plava Mali that he was working with in his native homeland of Croatia. Long story short, Dr. Meredith went over to Croatia, studied at the University of Zagreb with some professors there looking for the genetic equivalent of Zinfandel, and found that it was not in fact Plava Mali. It was a lesser grown grape called Trnjak Kaštelanski. And that, along with Dobrčić, another ancient grape from this region, are actually the parent grapes of modern day Plava Mali, which is widely grown throughout Croatia. So kind of an interesting story. But this wine, very uniquely, gives off some damp earth characteristics, some dried flowers, and some dusty cherry. It reminds me an awful lot of Sangiovese. A little maybe riper, but it definitely smells like Sangiovese. Yeah, compared to the other wines, much drier, much more structure, pretty good tannic structure, not overly drying, but has some grippiness to it. More of those dusty cherry notes, but a really good streak of acidity as well. I think this is an incredible food wine with some of those earthy notes, but also this kind of dusty cherry and good acidity. Substitute this for Sangiovese. Next time you're in an Italian restaurant or you want a Tuscan-based wine, try some Plava Mali and see what you think. So the last wine we're going to drink is another unique grape to Bosnia Herzegovina called Trnjak. Trnjak is one of those 3 grape varieties that's planted alongside of Blatina to try to help it pollinate. During pruning in the spring, Indira tells me that most growers of Trnjak cut back all the vines to 1 shoot only to really concentrate the fruit per vine and get a really structured, really densely concentrated wine. This wine changed a lot for me over the days of drinking it. Yeah, the first day I had this, the nose was kind of a chalky, slaty, minerally wine that reminded me of a mix between Aglianico from the southern part of Italy and some of the riper fruit flavors that you get in Zinfandel. After a couple days of air, this has opened up a little bit more and taken on more of what I would say is a Cabernet Sauvignon profile. A little bit more of those black currants, vanilla, clove, baking spice, and a really just rich, dense, powerful, concentrated wine. Yeah, it smells an awful lot like Cabernet right now. This is a special wine. If you like big, bold reds, if you like Aglianico with the structure and the minerality, if you like even Zinfandel, this isn't quite as jammy as a Zinfandel, but if you like Cabernet Sauvignon or any of these big red blends, this has that in spades, but it's also got an earthiness and an old world dustiness that is just unmistakable. Really, really unique wine. Definitely recommend seeking this one out if you can find it. So there you have it, Balkan grape varieties in a nutshell. You know, these wines can be found pretty widely throughout the U.S. or on the winesofillyria.com website, so go check them out. Hopefully this inspires you to seek out something different when next time you're in a wine store. You know, especially with COVID right now, we're not able to travel, but what we can do is go into a wine shop, buy a bottle of wine from a different region, and take a virtual trip to sample a little bit of the taste of that region and a little bit of the taste of the culture there. So again, seek out Wines of Illyria or any other Balkan wine the next time you're in the wine store, and hopefully some of my comparisons give you a guide on which grape variety to maybe try first to suit your liking. So until next time, as I always say, World of Wine is a big place. Here's to expanding your palate, drinking new regions, drinking new varieties. Cheers.